Welcome back to my channel today. I'm going to show you 5 coins that may look like ordinary pocket change, but can actually be worth a fortune. Imagine a 1974 quarter that sells for hundreds of dollars, a 1982p nickel that collectors chase for its rare details, a 1963D penny that could bring serious value with the right error, a 1953 wheat penny that connects us to history and sells for big money, and even a 1993D dime that can be worth hundreds or more. These 5 coins prove that hidden treasures are sitting right in your change, waiting to be discovered. Let us take a deep dive into the 1974 quarter dollar, a coin that many people think of as just a regular piece of pocket change. But what if I told you that this coin could actually be worth far more than its face value? That's right, the 1974 quarter has hidden potential in the world of numismatics, and depending on condition and rarity, it can fetch prices that surprise even experienced collectors. Let's talk value first. A circulated 1974 quarter usually trades hands for just its face value of 25 cents, but the real money begins when we look at uncirculated examples. If you come across one that has been preserved in mint state condition with sharp details and full original luster, collectors are willing to pay from $50 to several $100s. And here's where it gets even more exciting. Some rare mint errors can turn this quarter into a true treasure. Coins with off-center strikes, double dies clipped, planchets, or other unusual mistakes from the minting process can skyrocket into the thousands of dollars at auction. In fact, collectors actively search for these error quarters because they are so rare and because they represent unique moments in minting history where something went wrong yet created a coin worth far more than its intended value. Now, let's explore the history behind the 1974 quarter. This coin belongs to the Washington quarter series, which began in 1932 and continued with the eagle reverse design until 1998, when the state quarter program began. The 1974 issue was produced at a time when the United States Mint was striking billions of coins to meet the growing needs of commerce. In the 1970s, inflation and the expanding economy meant more coins were required in everyday transactions. This massive production is why so many of these quarters exist today, but at the same time, it is exactly why finding one in pristine, untouched condition is so difficult. Most were spent, heavily used, and worn down, leaving only a tiny fraction that survived in gem quality. That's why collectors will pay such a premium for the few that are still in mint state. Another fascinating detail is that the 1974 quarter is made of a copper nickel-clad composition. This was a continuation of the coinage changes that began in 1965, when silver was removed from quarters. Before 1965, quarters contained 90% silver, but after that they were struck in the clad composition. This makes the 1974 quarter part of the modern non-silver series, and yet within that modern design era, the 1974 still stands out as an important year for collectors. So the lesson here is simple: don't underestimate the power of a coin that looks ordinary. The 1974 quarter dollar may seem like it has no special value, but in the right condition or with the right error, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. If you ever come across one in your change, make sure to take a closer look, because you never know when you might be holding a hidden treasure from the 1970s. The 1963D penny is one of those coins that nearly everyone in America has seen at some point because billions were minted. But what most people do not realize is that some of these pennies are worth much more than just 1 cent. Collectors carefully look for condition, rarity, and error varieties, and that is where the hidden value comes in, starting with the worth. A circulated 1963D penny that has been through everyday use is typically valued at face value, but when you step into higher grades, the price changes quickly. An uncirculated example with full original red luster can bring $20 to $50, and if it grades very high, like MS66 or MS67 red, it can reach into the hundreds at auction. Some of the rarest and most valuable are error coins, repunched mint marks, double die obverse examples, and off-center strikes are highly sought after. These can sell anywhere from a few hundred to even over $1,000, depending on the severity and condition of the error. Collectors especially love the brilliant red coins because most 1963D pennies have toned brown or red-brown after decades of circulation, making those that still shine like the day they were struck very rare. The history of this coin also adds to its appeal. The 1963D penny was struck at the Denver Mint with a massive mintage of over 1.7 billion pieces. It carries the Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been introduced in 1959, replacing the wheat-backed pennies. This was a time when America was entering the turbulent 1960s and coin production was running at full speed to keep up with an expanding economy. The penny itself was composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it the classic weight and feel of pre-1982 pennies. Unlike the zinc-based cents of today, these copper pennies carry intrinsic value just in their metal content, which makes them desirable not only to collectors, but also to those who value the historic copper composition. What makes the 1963 penny even more interesting is that it falls into a period right before major changes in American coinage. By 1965, the mint removed silver from dimes and quarters, and even though the penny kept its copper composition until 1982, the early 60s cents are often viewed as part of the last golden age of traditional US coinage. This penny bridges the gap between the older wheat cent era and the modern memorial design, giving it both nostalgic and historic importance. So, when you find a 1963 penny in your collection, or even in an old jar of coins, don't dismiss it as just another cent. It could be a high-grade piece worth hundreds, or an error coin that collectors fight to own. The key is in the details. Look for sharpness, luster, and unusual features, because sometimes that one little penny can turn out to be worth a small fortune. The 1953 wheat penny is a coin that instantly sparks interest among collectors because it belongs to the famous wheat cent series, one of the most beloved designs in American coinage history. While at first glance it may seem like just another old penny, this coin can carry serious value depending on its condition and whether it has unique minting varieties. Let's start with its worth. In circulated condition, most 1953 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents above face value, but when preserved in higher mint state red condition, the story changes completely. A 1953 penny graded MS65 red can bring $40 to $60, while MS66 red examples can fetch hundreds of dollars at auction. And it doesn't stop there. If you come across rare double die varieties or repunched mint marks, values can rise dramatically, in some cases crossing the $1,000 mark. Error coins such as off center strikes or die cracks also attract a lot of attention from collectors, making them worth far more than their face value. The history of this coin adds another layer of importance. The 1953 penny was part of the Lincoln Wheat Cent series, designed by Victor David Brenner, which had been in use since 1909. The reverse shows two stalks of wheat, which symbolize prosperity and growth for the nation. By 1953, the design had already been in circulation for more than 40 years, and just 5 years later, in 1959, the wheat design would be retired and replaced with the Lincoln Memorial reverse. This makes the 1953 wheat penny part of the later era of the wheat cent series and gives it historical weight as one of the last years of a truly classic design. Struck in 95% copper with 5% tin and zinc, the 1953 penny carries the rich red copper color that collectors prize. However, because copper reacts to the environment, many of these pennies have darkened over the decades, making the few bright red examples incredibly rare and highly valuable. In addition, there were 3 different mint marks for this year: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D, and San Francisco with an S. Each has its own value range, but the key point is that high-grade or error examples from any mint are what collectors are chasing. This coin also represents a piece of post-war American history. The early 1950s were a time of growth, recovery, and change in the United States. Coins from this period are often seen as nostalgic reminders of that era. The wheat penny in particular holds a special place in the hearts of collectors because many people remember seeing them in circulation when they were younger, and today finding one feels like uncovering a small time capsule from the past. So, the 1953 wheat penny is not just a coin, it is a collectible treasure with a story behind it. While the average worn one might not be worth much, the right example, in mint condition or with rare varieties, can bring serious money, and that's why you should never overlook these copper classics, because one day you might discover that the penny in your hand is worth far more than you could imagine. The 1993 dime is one of those modern coins that many people overlook because it still looks very familiar and common in circulation. But the truth is that certain examples of this dime can carry real collector value, especially when you focus on high-grade mint state pieces and rare mint errors. Let's start with its worth. In everyday circulation, the 1993 dime from the Denver Mint is usually worth just its face value of 10 cents. However, collectors do not stop there when preserved in pristine mint state condition. This coin becomes far more desirable. In 1993, D dime, graded MS-66, can sell for $30 to $50, while an MS-67 example can push values into the hundreds. And if you are fortunate enough to find one graded MS-68 with full torch designation on the reverse, then you are talking about a coin that could be worth several hundred to even over $1,000. The full torch designation is highly prized because it means the torch bands on the reverse are fully struck and sharp, something that is rare to see on dimes from this era. Error examples also exist, and these are where values can skyrocket. An off-center strike, a double die, or a coin struck on the wrong planchet could easily sell for hundreds or even thousands at auction. The history behind this coin is also very interesting. The 1993 D dime is part of the Roosevelt dime series, which began in 1946 and continues to this day. The design honors President Franklin D. Roosevelt and has become one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. By the early 1990s, the United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of coins to keep up with the demands of commerce. So while billions of dimes entered circulation from the Denver Mint in 1993, most were spent heavily and only a fraction survived in top condition. That is exactly why high-grade examples are so rare and valuable. Composition-wise, the dime is made of a copper nickel clad, just like other modern dimes. Since 1965, it does not contain silver, but collectors still value it for rarity and condition. In fact, the 1993 D dime is a reminder that even modern coins can turn into valuable treasures when you consider the difference that one grade or one error can make. It is also a perfect example of how patience and careful examination can lead you to find something that others might miss. So, while the 1993 D dime may appear as just another small coin in your pocket change, the reality is that in the right condition or with the right minting error, it can be worth far more than 10 cents. It shows us that not all treasure is old or made of silver. Sometimes, even a modern coin from the 1990s can be worth real money if you know exactly what to look for. The 1982p nickel is one of those coins that often slips past unnoticed because millions were produced, but when you take a closer look, it becomes clear why collectors chase this particular issue. In fact, under the right circumstances, this nickel can be worth a lot more than just 5 cents. Let's begin with the value. A circulated 1982p nickel that has been in pocket change for years is normally only worth face value. However, the real treasures are found in high-grade mint state. Examples: a gem mint 1982p nickel with sharp details and brilliant luster can easily sell for $50 to $100. And if you happen to find one with the highly coveted full steps designation on the reverse, the value can soar into the hundreds of dollars. Full steps mean that the lines on the steps of Monticello are fully struck without breaks, and this is extremely rare for nickels from the early 1980s because of weak strikes at the mint. In addition, error varieties such as off-center strikes, double dies, and wrong planchet strikes can push the value into the thousands. The history behind this coin adds to its appeal. The 1982 Philadelphia nickel came at a time when the United States Mint was transitioning in design and production methods. The dies were wearing down faster, and this caused many weakly struck coins to enter circulation. This is why fully detailed examples are so rare and so sought after by collectors. This nickel is composed of copper and nickel, with Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, continuing a design that had been in use since 1938, but the early 80s pieces have become important to collectors because of how difficult it is to find well-struck onesso. Even though the 1982p nickel may look ordinary in your hand, it is anything but ordinary for those who know what to look for. In the right condition, it becomes a coin worth keeping and a coin worth real money. And that brings us to the end of today's video. We looked at 5 coins that might seem ordinary at first glance, but each one has the potential to be worth much more than its face value. The 1974 quarter, the 1982p nickel, the 1963D penny, the 1953 wheat penny, and the 1993 D dime all carry hidden stories and collector demand, whether it is mint errors, sharp details, or pristine mint state conditions. These small pieces of history can turn into treasures worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The lesson is simple: never underestimate the change in your pocket or the coins sitting in an old jar at home. Every coin has a story, and sometimes the rarest finds are hiding right in plain sight. So take a closer look at your coins. You might just discover a hidden gem that could change the way you see pocket change forever. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, share it with other collectors, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of rare coins and their hidden values. Because the next treasure might already be in your hands.